So you wake up, it's a beautiful Monday morning, Memorial Day morning, and you go into your kitchen, you get the coffee percolating, you're making some breakfast, you eat your breakfast, drink your coffee, and you're like, all right, time for the Memorial Day lifting session. So you get in your car and you go to the gym, and when you're at the gym, you go to the water bottle refiller station and you're filling up your water bottle, and you overhear a conversation between two people where they're debating between each other if Ozempic and Wegovy and these other weight loss drugs are actually the better option for weight loss than just proper diet and exercise. And you start to think to yourself, well, I have seen Ozempic and Wegovy in the news recently. Is it really that good of an option for weight loss? Well, let's talk about the science behind that.
Welcome to The Science Behind That with Atticus Hamilton.
Hello, all you scientists, and welcome on back to The Science Behind That podcast. I'm your host, Atticus Hamilton, and as you heard from the intro, today we're going to be talking about the science behind Ozempic and other GLP-1 agonists. This has been something that I'm sure all of you have seen in one way or another on social media, and has really jumped into the limelight in the past couple of months as almost a miracle drug or a miracle cure for obesity. And we're going to be examining that today. We're going to be talking about the physiology behind how it works, a little bit of the biochemistry, and then of course, we're going to be talking about if it really is better for you than just proper nutrition, proper diet, proper exercise. So before we do that, I'd like to invite all of you guys to go grab yourselves a nice steaming hot cup of coffee, add a little bit of maple syrup to it, and we'll jump right in. So, I'm back. During the time that I was gone, I received many emails from you guys asking where I was and if this is it, if the podcast is over. No, it's not over. I'm back. And where was I? Well, I took a lot of time off because I was studying for the MCAT, and I started my medical school application. So I'm really hoping that it works out this time around, and I think it will, but I didn't really have time with devoting all my energy into studying that. I also started working towards completing my certification as a personal trainer and as a nutrition coach, and so I'm almost done with that as well. So that's where I was. I haven't given up on the podcast. I know I was gone for a very long time, but that's what was happening, and I'm back, and I'm ready to do more of these episodes. So let's jump in and talk about today's topic. So GLP-1 or Ozempic. So Ozempic is a class of medication it belongs to a class of medication called GLP-1 agonists. And what GLP-1 is it's a hormone that's naturally secreted by the intestinal cells in response to eating. And what it does is it acts on the beta cells of the pancreas to produce insulin. So just as a summary, if you don't know, alpha cells of the pancreas produce glucagon, the beta cells of the pancreas produce insulin, and the delta cells produce somatostatin. What insulin does, as I'm sure many of you know, is insulin acts on glucose in the blood to decrease blood serum glucose levels. The way it does that is basically and this is very simplified, so all the biochemists out there, don't get mad at me that it's simplified, all right? It's simplified because all the nitty-gritty details are not necessarily important. But ultimately, what insulin does is it binds to the glucose, and it induces the absorption of glucose from the blood into the actual tissues to go to the cells that it needs to go to. Glucagon, on the other hand, what that does is it stimulates gluconeogenesis, or the production of glucose, to raise blood serum glucose levels. And somatostatin acts on both of them to actually decrease or inhibit the secretion of both insulin and glucagon. In addition to that, somatostatin also has a variety of other functions. It regulates other body functions, and those could be inhibiting the secretion of growth hormone and ACTH from the pituitary gland. It also interacts with the release of vasoactive intestinal peptide, gastrin, and renin. So somatostatin has a broad range of activity, but in the strict context of insulin and glucagon, it works to inhibit both of them. Okay, so we know that then. So basically, considering everything we learned, how does Ozempic or Wegovy or any of the other list of GLP-1 receptor agonist drugs work? Well, they're receptor agonists, so most of them, at least that I could find, don't necessarily increase endogenous GLP production. Instead, they act as GLP-1 receptor agonists, so the drugs bind to the receptor and induce the secretion of insulin, basically. And so when those insulin levels rise, your serum glucose levels decrease and shuttle more glucose into the tissues. And so as a result, your body takes longer to metabolize food in your stomach. And the amount of blood sugar, or the amount of sugar that the liver produces, also slows down. And that results in a feeling of satiety, or being full, for a much longer duration of time. And there's also some evidence to suggest that GLP-1 injections act on the brain to induce satiety and improve glycemic control, which is why Ozempic is primarily used for managing type 1 diabetes. But then other ones like Wegovy are specifically for weight loss. Sorry, I had to take a sip of my coffee. So that's how it works. There is a big problem, though, with GLP-1 injections, and this is what we're going to get into next, which are the side effects. So the most common side effects, or some common side effects, are nausea, diarrhea, vomiting, and reduced appetite. Now, is reduced appetite a side effect? I don't think so. It's really just the intended cause. The intention of the drug is to reduce your appetite so you eat less, resulting in weight loss. And it's very effective at doing so. A problem, though, that more and more people are starting to talk about, because of the fact that they have been on Ozempic or Wegovy or whatever for long periods of time, and everyone's sharing their experiences with them, a big side effect that's becoming apparent is loss of muscle mass. Now, why is that happening? There's a variety of possibilities, extending from unintended consequence of mechanisms of actions of the drug, resulting in a decrease in muscle density and muscle mass. But the other one, which is probably the most accurate one, is the drug itself is interfering with the ability to break down food, basically. And for there to be adequate muscle growth and even just preservation of muscle mass, you need to be able to adequately break down food and then send the building blocks of that food, the amino acids, the carbohydrates, the fats, through the appropriate metabolic pathways to construct the building blocks of muscle, i.e. protein. And one thing that people are noticing is that when you are regularly taking these GLP-1 injections, weight loss of muscle mass is a big issue. In addition to that, you have other side effects like gallbladder disease or gallbladder stones. Those are less common. But the other issue with this as well is that it interferes with your neurochemistry a little bit as well. So you feel less hungry and you get full faster, and you don't think about food as much. But those symptoms will come back when people stop taking GLP-1 injections. And a lot of times those cravings that were being suppressed will come back stronger after a person stops taking it. So it's harder then to keep weight off if that's the primary concern. And of course, people who have pancreatitis or other endocrine diseases are advised not to take it because, again, the drug acts directly on the beta cells of the pancreas that produce insulin. And so if you have pancreatitis, it's not advised to take the drug. So going into that from the side effects, and of course, because these are newer drugs, more side effects are going to come to the forefront as time goes on. But we've talked about how it works. We've talked about the side effects of it. And here comes the question, is this really better than diet and exercise? Well, in my opinion, no. But of course, it depends on what you mean by better. Are you gonna lose weight very quickly if you take Ozempic? Absolutely. But is it going to just be in terms of fat? Is it just going to be adipose tissue that you're losing? No, you're going to lose muscle mass and fat mass, which is definitely not good. And as somebody who is on the road to be a personal trainer and hopefully a physician, and as a fitness enthusiast, that's definitely not something that is good. You don't want to lose muscle mass, you want to lose fat mass and preserve your muscle mass, because as I've talked about on many episodes of this show, muscle mass and having high muscle density is very beneficial for overall health. So at the end of the day, is it going to be slower to lose weight in the route of nutrition, diet, and exercise? Yes. But is it going to be more beneficial for your health in the long run? Absolutely. And so from my medical opinion, and again, I'm not a doctor yet, but I do work in this area of healthcare. In my opinion, is more ideal to go through the route of proper nutrition, exercise, and diet, to ensure long-term sustained weight loss. And that's the thing too. A lot of these weight loss drugs will result in rebound weight gain after cessation of taking the drug, because it suppresses cravings. Frankly, it suppresses cravings. And by going the route of health and exercise instead, it allows you to manage, in a more managed sense, address the cravings and control that from a healthy way, and not just use a drug to control it, which would potentially result in rebound weight gain afterwards. But of course, I'm not a physician yet, so if any of you listening to this episode are considering it, I would discuss with your doctor. But from what the literature suggests, it seems like the most ideal route of weight loss is proper nutrition, proper diet, and proper exercise. Of course, that doesn't examine the use of GLP-1 injections for type 1 diabetes. That's a separate issue altogether. But in terms of drugs like Wegovy that are specifically geared towards weight loss, it may be more advantageous from a health perspective and a long-term weight loss goals into discussing with a fitness health professional or a physical therapist or your sports medicine physician to develop an optimal diet, optimal nutrition, and optimal exercise routine to achieve your weight loss goals that way, as opposed to using a drug that can result in loss of muscle mass and fat mass together, and a whole host of other side effects instead. So that is all I have for you today, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know this was kind of an interesting episode for me to do as well. And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you guys have a great Memorial Day if you're in America, and a great week for those of you in the rest of the world. And remember, as always, stand up and question everything.
So catch me if I fall.